Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday evening, July 7th, 2025. It is 7 p.m., and this is a regular meeting of the Gorham Planning Board. Would you please join me in pledging allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please silence your cell phones? Yakulov, would you please call the roll?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hager.
Here.
Mr. Benson is excused this evening. Ms. Nichols.
Here.
Mr. Frank.
Here.
Mr. Walsh.
Here.
Mr. Delaney.
Here.
Mr. Crisafulli.
Here.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in your pack, we have the Planning Board meeting minutes from June 2nd and June 16th. I'd look to our secretary, Ms. Nichols, if you would give us your review.
The planning board minutes of our June 2nd meeting and have found that they are in good order.
Would we like to approve these separately or together? Just looking for consensus.
We might have to do separate because I wasn't here for the June 2nd.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Is there a motion, please? Ms. Nichols, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as presented for the June 2nd, 2025 planning board meeting.
Thank you.
Dave Walsh, second.
Walsh, thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Crisafulli and Mr. Frank were not here, so I ask you not to vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. Moving along, we also have the minutes from the Planning Board meeting of June 16th. It was a combined meeting with the Buxton Planning Board. Again, Ms. Nichols.
Again, I have reviewed these minutes and I have found that they are in good order, and I would recommend approval.
Thank you. I did not find anything either. I appreciate your help. Is there a motion, please?
So I would make the motion, Barbara Nichols, make the motion to approve the minutes of the planning board meeting of June 16th, 2025.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Dave Walsh, second.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Any reason for anyone not to approve them? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. Moving along, we had approval of the minutes. Reports, Chairman's report. First, I would like to talk about the June 16th combined meeting we had with the Buxton Planning Board. I want to thank my planning department personnel for setting up the joint meeting and, of course, extending an appreciation to the Buxton Planning Board members, to those members that were able to attend that meeting. Earlier this evening, we had a combined full board workshop. The discussion that we grabbed on this evening was the South Gorham Road interconnectivity discussion. It was a lively discussion. There is more to be discussed. I'm looking to the planning board because they were planning department. I apologize because they captured a lot of our thoughts. We will be talking about this again. One idea that was well received is to perhaps have a meeting with the Gorham Town Council in a workshop to discuss where we are so that they have information before then, in real time, not having to go back and try and figure out where we are. We did not get to the second item on the full board workshop. I think that's, I do have one more thing, if you don't mind, ladies and gentlemen. Our planning board rules state a requirement on how we hear public hearings. During my tenure and when I was serving on other boards, I don't ever recall it being done the way that our rules state. And we have been trying to do this the last two meetings, and we have actually published it, and I hope it's in the back. We were able to do that.
Yes.
Thank you. So you will hear me say, for those that are in favor, those that are opposed, and those that just want to speak to the item. That should have always been done. We dug deep into those rules, and hopefully we will be doing that moving forward. So apologies for not having done it in the past. I think everything was well received, but this is more in line with what our actual rules state. And those will be published in the back of the council chambers for future public meetings. There, I'm done. Is there anyone, please, Ordinance Committee, Mr. Walsh?
The ordinance committee has not met since our last meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Frank, Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee.
We have not met.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Administrative review?
No items have been received for administrative review.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is item 4 on our agenda, public hearings. Item number 1 is a public hearing, home occupation standard revisions, a request to amend the Land Use and Development Code, Chapter 2, Section 2 to 15, home occupation standards, to add provisions for roadside stands. I'll look to Planning Department to introduce this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a proposed zoning amendment. It's a rather straightforward amendment. We allow roadside stands in really all districts, but the districts that they're going to be utilized most are rural and suburban residential, and the front setbacks for those districts are, especially on collector roads, are substantial. So your 75-foot or 70-foot setback, it makes it hard for a roadside stand to be visible at that distance. So the proposed amendment in front of you would be to exempt roadside stands from that 75-foot setback while they're in operation. So they could be within 25 feet of the right-of-way. Once the roadside stand goes away, then the structure will be removed. But it just gives flexibility for the rural and suburban residential district, for the most part, to utilize a more normal front setback for a farm stand use, so it's more visible from the right-of-way. And with that, I'd answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Poirier. Members of the board.
I have only two.
Please, Mr. Walsh.
2 points. Yeah, Dave Walsh. I'm in support of this change, but in the language under roadside stands, page 2, near the bottom, there's 2 sections. I guess it's there's 1 and 2, and then 1 and 2 again. So it's the second number 1. It says the last sentence, the roadside stand must meet the character and neighborhood of the neighborhood, both in size, layout, and design. Nice general language. Is it too general? That was really my only question. Can that get us in trouble? The character of the neighborhood.
It is general. Really, these permits are being granted by the code office. I think it's more to ensure that some building materials like T111 or some stuff that's not typically seen in that neighborhood is being utilized in the front setback. So it's more of if it meets what's being done on that neighborhood, then they can use it. I don't know how to make it more specific than that without having it spelled out.
Okay. It's both in size then. Is there further standards to a size of a stand that could be built? Or is it, you have big homes, that mean you have big stands?
Correct. So it's based on the amount of single-family living space, so it's 20%. So it can vary in size. So
Okay.
The bigger the house, the bigger the farm stand.
Okay, and then just my one last comment was, if it's not, states in there, if it's not utilized for more than 1 year, it has to be removed or set back. If it's an eyesore to the neighborhood, can it be removed sooner, or would that be a code enforcement?
Yeah, it would be a code enforcement item. My guess is by the time we're hearing about it, it's probably been over a year. But I guess if it ceases operations in a couple of months, someone could identify it for us, so then we can start the clock. I guess that would be the best thing. But typically, we don't get complaints until it's been there a while and it's probably falling down.
Okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. Again, home occupation standard revisions as described by Mr. Poirier. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this in favor? If you would, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. I see no one rising. Ladies and gentlemen, is there anyone that would like to speak against this item? I see no one rising. Is there anyone that would like to speak to this item, either for or against? I see no one rising. I'll close this public hearing. Members of the board. As described by Mr. Poirier, we have two motions on page 3. Unless you need more. Touche.
Oh, should this?
Item 3, perhaps. I don't think
council,
we need
not
to
like-
send this to a public hearing
No.
unless
Town council.
we think there's other people going to show up next time.
So send it to council?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, are you going to amend the language?
Yeah, so it would say town council instead of planning board on that bottom motion.
Also for a public hearing?
Yeah, council has public hearing right after you guys
That
do.
would always be, yeah.
Okay. And I would move to send the proposed zoning amendment regarding roadside stands to the next available town council meeting for a public hearing.
Ms. Nichols? Is there a
Dave
second?
Walsh, second?
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. I think Mr. Poirier described it. I vote in favor of this. Does anyone have any other discussion about it? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is item 2. Item 2 is a public hearing, site plan, University of Maine Art Building. A proposal to construct a 3-story, 34,650 square foot building and associated infrastructure at the corner of School Street and Campus Avenue on map 40, lot 16, and map 101, lot 6, lot 7, lot 8. Zone urban residential. The applicant is represented by Julie Curran with the B team in attendance as well. Planning Department, would you like to introduce us, please?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the second time this has been in front of the planning board. Staff has provided detailed review of the current proposal. And really, when you look at it, there are really, we were able to draft findings for everything here. There was just some additional information needed for access into the site and then pedestrian relationship facilities. And with that, we'd answer any questions the board has.
Poirier. Yes, Ms. Curran, please.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm Julie Curran with Great Falls Construction. Good evening. I'm joined this evening by Mike Johanning and David Woodward from WBRC, John Smith from Great Falls Construction, and Tom Blanchard from the University of Maine System. We are here this evening to discuss the new USM art facility. Thank you for giving it an introduction. So essentially, this was discussed at last meeting, but I'll just give a really brief overview, and then I'm going to hand it off to Mike Johanning, who's going to run through the plans with you. But we intend to build a 3-story, 34,650 square foot facility. It'll be home for uses such as ceramics, sculpture, some gallery space, lounge space for the students, woodworking, digital and photo, drawing, and classroom spaces as well. And adjacency to the buildings will be a couple outbuildings, one a kiln, which is just a relocation of a current kiln that sits next to the current ceramics use. And then the other is the welding shed, which is currently a shed elsewhere on campus. And so these uses are just relocating what currently resides within the Roby Andrews facility on campus. And so this is sort of a relocation of the art program from essentially the basement of Roby Andrews primarily into a new facility. You can imagine they're excited. So it's a really exciting project, both for the university, but also for the town of Gorham. And Mike will point out sort of the outbuildings and give you better detail as he reviews it. So so basically just a quick recap of, we were here on sketch plan, we're here for our next meeting. This project's been in the works for about 2 years now, I believe, maybe even more for the university's perspective. And so we're excited to be here tonight with you this evening to discuss any questions you have. And we look forward to discussion. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to Mike Johanning to run through the plans.
Thank you.
Yes, hello again. My name is Mike Johanning with WBRC. Thank you for having us here this evening to talk about this project. As Julie mentioned, the university is really excited for this opportunity to really consolidate some of the programs within art into one facility on campus. So moving out of Robey Andrews and giving an opportunity to come closer to the street side, giving more of a presence on campus. Since we were here last, there have been a couple adjustments to the plan that I'd go through with you real quickly so you can understand where those changes happened. So you can see my cursor here moving on the screen. This kind of north bump out on the plan was in line with this piece here. So
Excuse me, what sheet is this, please? What drawing sheet?
This is the site plan. This is what, CP?
Lower right-hand corner, the drawing number?
Yep, 1 second.
101.
CP 101.
Thank you.
Yep. So this north extension on the plan was in alignment here. So what happened was, as we were working through the plan adjustments and the programming adjacencies, it made more sense to shift that building more towards campus. And what that did was that created a little jog. That piece shifted more away from the street, given some opportunities to work at the plan adjacencies a little bit better. What that did on site was a few nice things. This access drive coming in here that serves the drop-offs for ceramics that actually got shorter. These outbuildings for future pieces for the kiln shed and for the welding shed kind of shifted over with those and that same movement. As a part of our discussions, we also had a conversation with the local fire department, and this worked out well for that adjustment as well, shifting this piece over. The sprinkler room for the building sits right in this corner up and through here. So with that move, that gives fire department access a lot easier and closer relationship to that corner of the building. So when that fire department truck pulls through, they can jump right into the sprinkler room and have access to all the fire control systems in the building. When that happened, we also adjusted to 2 stairs in the building. So we had a stair tower in this location and in this location. Previously, we had a stair egressing over on the School Street side of the building. So we were able to move all that traffic and the egress traffic away from the School Street and egressing back towards campus, which is another plus in the overall scheme of the layout. One of the other nice features with this drive shift and this building moving over in this direction is we also pulled out 6 additional parking spaces over here. So that's reducing that hardscape on campus a little bit as well. And those are the kind of the bigger plan changes that we had. I can talk to the elevations unless there's anything you'd want to go over on the site plan. We keep going on the elevations? I can do that.
Any questions on the plan? Yes, please.
I just have a question. So I'm looking at this drawing here.
Yeah,
I understand it's a 3-story building, and I see stairwells.
correct.
Is there an elevator?
Yes, there is. We'll have an elevator. It'll be located about right in this area, right in the core of the building. And that'll serve all the levels of the building. And of course, one of the nice features about this site is as you come in with our ADA parking up through in this area here, it's an at-grade access with a slight slope, but it's not actually even meeting the requirements of a ramp. So you come in at that grade level. So very accessible building.
Thank you.
Next to the kiln shed, no size on that building. It appears to be 25 by 25, but I'm not sure if you have a dimension for it.
Yeah, so the kiln shed we have here about 12 by 20, and then the welding building is about 20 by 20.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I didn't see
Nope,
the
no
arrow.
problem.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else?
Okay, I'll
Yes.
keep moving ahead. So with the elevations, we worked through a number of schemes with the university, and they really wanted to make sure we had something on campus that said art building. So I'm going to go through some views. The initial view is from this view up here, looking towards the main entrance. So here's the main entrance to the building. And again, they're really looking for something that was going to say art building. So when you come onto campus, you understand where the art building is at, right? So we have a scheme for the building with this random play of windows that kind of goes across the elevation. At the same time, we're looking for a kind of a muted color palette for the elevations, and that's really coming a little bit to do with the cost. We're working inside of what we have for a color palette for the pre-engineered metal building we're looking at, and the available color palette that's there for those wall panels. So there's kind of a lighter tone for the primary volume of the building, and then a darker tone for the building piece to the north. And then we're looking at some areas where we can pull in some pops of color. So at the canopy on the main entrance, potentially looking at some of the yellow type of approach to identify that canopy. And then also using that same kind of approach at the back of the building to try to identify the palette to the north side. And I said back. The reality is this building really doesn't have a back because of how it fronts. There's kind of a campus side and a street side. So the canopy to the north, then that's over top of the overhead door. That's for shipping and receiving for those clay deliveries that happen a few times a year. So again, there's that larger volume. That's the lighter tone and a darker tone. We're kind of handling the two volumes of the building a little bit differently. So there's this kind of a piece to the front that serves this smaller volume that has a little bit different window layout. And then the larger volume to the back where we're continuing this random window pattern to, again, reinforce what the building is about. And whether or not we're leaving a space in here for a mural. The intent there, whether or not it says art, and is that obvious, but it's an opportunity for the university to put some type of mural on the building to, again, further reinforce the idea that this is an art building on campus.
Any questions on these drawing perspectives?
No.
Don't ask me, you can ask him.
I've lost my perspective of where Fort Hill Road is. Is this the side that we're going to see from Fort Hill Road?
Yeah, this is the
side.
street elevation,
Okay,
correct.
That's what.
Yep.
I
there you
label
go.
that as the north corner of the building.
That's accurate. So that's the view. Let me go back to the site plan. That's the view coming down this way here, looking towards this.
Okay.
And what you call the main entrance, I labeled the south corner. Is that?
That's accurate, yes.
And that's the dust collector right there.
Okay.
And the ductwork, associated ductwork with it. Mr. Walsh.
I just have a couple quick questions. What's the project timeline?
Yep, so I'll let Great Falls respond to the timeline if you want to go through that, Julie.
Okay, and then maybe before you jump away, the other question I had was really around the intersection with School Street, Fort Hill Road, and are you going to do anything to improve that sidewalk, the current sidewalk situation?
I'll let you guys get into that one, too.
Sure. Thanks for your questions. So I'll start with the timeline and then I'll talk about sidewalk. So the first question, which is what is the project timeline? And so, like I mentioned before, we've been working with the university for a couple years now, and the project's been in conception far longer than that. And so our current trajectory has us hopeful to start late fall on this project. We do work with the university. They have a board of trustees that governs the university, and so there are approvals that need to be obtained for the project to begin. And in order to do that, having planning board approval is ideal. And so our hope is that we receive planning board approval this evening in order to continue on our path for a November breaking of ground. And so that's where we're at with timeline. And then in terms of sidewalk, just to confirm I understand your question, are you referring to this area right here?
Correct.
Right where my mouse
Yeah.
is. Yeah. So this is an existing crosswalk. I know that the 114 just got repaved. I'm not sure if that's restriped yet, but
Yeah, it is.
It is. Good. Okay, great. So that's existing sidewalk there. And then part of our discussion with the town Public Works was having some solar flashers at either side of that existing crosswalk. And so we understand that that's a desire from the town staff meeting that we had.
Okay, so you're going to improve the crosswalk with the solar flashers, then connect to there's an existing sidewalk that comes up Campus Ave there.
Correct.
All right, so you'll
Yep.
all right, so really it's going to be the same layout as it is today.
Yeah, the sidewalk exists currently, right where my mouse is, right here. Yep.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Mr. Frank.
Thank you. Julie, I'm looking at page 3, and this is really for you and the town too. The comprehensive plan calls for the campus to be rezoned. Is that underway or has it happened?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So it's the discussion, the university is certainly aware of this discussion, and there's been high-level discussions with the council, USM's internal council regarding this as well. And so that is something we understood to be a condition of approval for this project, and such that it would be discussed as we continue along the project. Because we know it's a desire of the town, and the university is excited to work together to make that happen. But in order to do that, it takes time. So I think that was something that was to be discussed. Looks like John has something to add to that. So.
Hi, excuse me, John Smith with Great Falls. I just want to clarify one thing, that I want to be careful that we don't tie the conditions of approval for rezoning of the university to the art project. They are working on it, but it is it's more complicated than you might think, and it involves lawyers and all that. So I think it is not connected to the project, and I think we want to try to make sure that it stays disconnected unless that's not your wish. But it could really impact the schedule of this project. And excuse me, Julie alluded to the schedule quite well on it, but I think there are just a lot of balls in the air to move this project forward. And I know we've been talking with staff. We've met before this board, before we're on a good methodical path while working with the university. And I think that one of our desires is to gain approval fairly quickly, because if we fall out of step with board trustee meetings, then we really lose a lot of ground, and it's very problematic for the project. So that's why we're looking for approval tonight. I think the discussion we had with staff was that hopefully anything that is a challenge is small enough so it fits on conditions of approval. And that's the conversation that we had. Whether that's a fact or not remains to be seen here, but that was the conversation we had. So just want to add that. Thank you.
And John, thank you for raising this point. And I guess I'm just going to throw the question back to Tom, and just, where is that at? And is this something we can approve, as a condition of approval for that, or can it be approved on a current zoning? I guess that's a greater question.
Yep, so I'll speak to, absolutely agree with John, that we're not tying the campus zone to this approval. So it's just a discussion we have to try to get USM interested in the university zone, because we're always trying to, one of the aspects here is they've got to merge lots together, because they won't meet setbacks. So if we had a university zone, that's something we could just overlook as part of a university zoning district. So the need to kind of move in the direction of university is just something, an ongoing discussion. We have a USM and understanding that they have a lot of layers, similar to town government. So totally understand that. This is something you could approve tonight. I just want to make one thing clear. So the pedestrian facility, the only difference is Campus Ave would have a sidewalk that would have a crosswalk that would dump pedestrians on that side of what would be the south side of Campus Ave, and then cross over at that point with flashers. That's the discussion as it's currently identified in the findings. That's the improvement that's identified as part of the master plan for the village.
But not what's shown on the stat.
No,
not what
it's just a small change. It would just cross at Campus Ave to be more of a straight across School Street. If you look now, it's kind of a long angular cross. It's not ideal. So identifying it, crossing campus, and then cross over. What we found in the village study is that used to be a high crash location. There were a number of people hit on bicycles and other things. So making that intersection safer, that's why it's identified that fix as part of this master plan. So we're just recommending as part of this that be a safer pedestrian movement for people for the university and people attending the university.
So you're recommending, but has that been incorporated? Will that be incorporated into the plan?
It's identified in the findings. So I guess the question for the university: are you okay with that fix?
Yeah, this is a really minor fix, and I think the only reason it's not in there yet is it's part of the ongoing discussion. And I think there was a study done at the town level, I'm going to say 15 years ago, but I don't know, Carol had mentioned it, and we were back and forth on what did that say, is that still relevant, where are we at? So we weren't quite sure what the actual ask was, but a minor change like that to improve the safety of intersection is not going to be a problem. So that's definitely a condition we're willing to accept.
Good, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Frank?
Yeah, again, with the zoning, it's the town's idea, Tom? I'm sorry. This creation of the university zone is the town's idea?
Yes, so if you look, I don't think it's the town's idea, but if you look at towns across the state that have universities, all of them have universities are in this kind of university district because it's a unique use for a parcel. It's not a big zoning district, it's usually really targeted, and then most colleges have master plans. So what you look to do in a university zoning is adopt the master plan that the university is looking to implement with these conditions about neighborhood and protecting surrounding neighborhoods. And then you utilize that as they develop out, that they would do site plans that would be consistent with their master plan. That's what we're reviewing against trying to review a master plan for university against an urban residential district. It doesn't really line up that well. So that's the goal when you're outlining one of these university districts.
Well, the truth is, for John on this one, is this rezoning or lack of it, it's not going to hinder your progress in any way? Is that a true statement?
That is true. We have some moves that we need to make in order to make it not hinder it, but it's just legal lot line movement to make sure that we meet the requirements. So for this project, we have a path forward.
Maybe I can put this to rest, please. Ignoring the university overlay plan, this project, as it stands right now, is good to go based on the zoning.
Correct.
Thank you. Let's put that to rest. Thank you. I have if I can sneak in? On page 5, please, on page 5 of our notes, the first bulleted item, it says, the applicant in meeting with town staff discussed potentially removing the ROTC building on 132 School Street and relocating that program to another location on campus. If this change is proposed to move forward in conjunction with the proposal art building project, it should be shown on the site plan. Are we showing that? Are we?
I had that highlighted too.
Yeah. Is there a demo plan, Dave? Yeah. Yeah. So there's the ROTC building. I can zoom in on that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yep.
Except building error, but spelling error, building, that's okay. I have one or two more, please. On page 12 of 20, please, look into the planning department, off-site sidewalk. Improvements or relocation of the pedestrian crossing on School Street as part of the recommended village finding. There's nothing there.
Yeah, what I would suggest, because I think until we heard from the applicant that they've identified that proposed fix, that we can now put in there adequate pedestrian facilities shall be provided to and within the development for any development in the pedestrian overlay district, and that would be the finding.
That'll be a condition of approval.
Well, it's in the findings, so I think you just amend when you do your motion for approval, you just say as amended by the planning board this evening, and then that will add that motion in.
But the only amendment is what you just said, no one's written it down.
Correct.
So it's on video. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and condition of approval number 3, any staff and
Sure.
peer review comments shall be addressed prior to the board signing the plan, so we look to see that change
Sure.
has been made, and before we
It's just when there's an omission there, I get a little curious. Yeah, errors and omissions on engineering drawings are not good. I think the
Agreed.
professionals would agree. There's a whole insurance policy on that, isn't there? Thank you. And last but not least, on page 19, item number 11, these are part of the conditions. Item number 11, the last sentence, the approvals of town staff and the town attorney. Is there something more?
Oh, yeah.
I'm missing where we're at.
Number 11.
Page 19 of 20. The last sentence.
Number 11.
Ends in a semicolon.
14 ends that way, too.
14, thank you. I didn't look beyond. I highlighted that.
Two is that way.
So what, I guess I missed what the,
It's an incomplete thought to me.
The semicolon.
Do you agree? Incomplete thought?
Should that just be a period at the end of that, or is there supposed to be something following the semicolon?
Oh,
That's
I
what he's asking.
no, so if you look at all the, this goes back to attorney writing only because, so they should all be semicolons because each one is its own independent thought. So actually number 12 should be a semicolon, not a period.
All of them?
All of them. And then
I
the
know where it
last
is.
one, like number 18 should say, all fees in lieu of pedestrian improvement construction shall be paid prior to the issuance of a building permit, semicolon, and then that's how legally it should read out because it's kind of all together.
Should you say, and?
How many years have we been doing this?
I don't know.
Okay, well,
that's what
thank
a
you.
lawyer.
Thank you. I'm going to be looking
Identified.
forward to that now, from now
Yeah.
on. That's all I have. I apologize for taking up that time. Anyone else on the board? Any other questions? Any other questions for the planning department or for our guests? Please, Mr. Walsh.
Chairman, point of order. This is a public hearing. Did we?
Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, now we'll segue to the public hearing. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. A proposal to construct a three-story, 34,650 square foot building and associated infrastructure at the corner of School Street and Campus Avenue for the University of Maine, an art building. If there is anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. I see no one rising. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is anyone here that would like to speak against this project, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Again, I see no one rising. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is anyone here that would like to speak to the project, for or against, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Once again, I see,
Nope, just clearing my screen.
it would have been the first one, and anyways. So I see no one rising. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I will close the public hearing. Thank you for the reminder, Mr. Walsh.
But that leads me to a question. Has there been any public input, and will this project be, will we be using our new abutter notification for this? Or has that passed?
The butters were notified of this meeting, so just like any
Okay.
public hearing, so
Fantastic.
they've been identified.
All right. And have you received any input from neighbors? Okay, treat them well.
Going once, going twice. Any more feedback, input, ideas, suggestions? On page 20, we have a couple of suggested motions. And please, if you would like to consider the edits made by Mr. Poirier.
Mr. Chairman.
Please, Mr. Walsh.
All right. Move to grant the University of Southern Maine request for a site plan and special exception approval for the art building and associated infrastructure located on map 40, lot 16, map 101, lots 6, 7, and 8 in the urban residential zoning district based upon findings of fact, conditions of approval as written by the town planner and amended by the planning board.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Is there a second?
May I say? Frank will second.
Mr. Frank, he's closer to me. I'll get to you, Mr. Delaney. Thank you. Yes, I'm pleased with this. We had a meeting last month. The drawings have been improved. Clarifications made. Communication continues to go with the planning department. I will vote in favor of this. I would like to hear from anyone else. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
How are we doing? Anyone need a break? We good? Ladies and gentlemen, moving on to item 3, public hearing, master site development plan, Mitchell Woods condominiums, a proposal to create a master plan to construct 30 units of multifamily housing with associated infrastructure on County Road, map 6, lot 2, zone South Gorham Commercial Corridor. The applicant is represented by Annie Morrow, PE with BH2M. I would like to say, the latest drawings are showing 32 units. The latest drawings are showing 32 units, not 30 as written on this. Would you like to present this for us?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Chair. So, and yeah, just to address that question there, they're proposing to add 30 additional units. There are two units currently. There's a existing commercial building and single-family home with accessory dwelling unit.
I apologize. As I'm looking at the actual drawing, it actually shows 32 units.
Yes, it does.
So the total count would then be 34, I suppose. So we can ask the applicant to clarify that. So
Okay. No,
just to give an overview of
Sure,
what
please.
they're proposing here, because there are 2 items actually on the agenda covering the proposal. So the first is the master site development plan. So that's a requirement in the ordinance for South Gorham Commercial Corridor zoning for projects above a certain size or that are phased. So this project does trigger that requirement. So the ordinance specifies that the master site development plan needs to be put in place before subdivision site plan can be granted. So that's why we've placed the items in this order on the agenda. The applicant is looking to have them reviewed concurrently this evening. However, they are in sequence here. So what we have you first look to is the big picture to get feedback and get public input on the master site development plan that's proposed. So what we've done in the memo for item 3, the master site development plan, is outline and create findings for how they have met the requirements as specified. So as you go through, you'll see that there are several area issues that have been identified that should be discussed with the applicants. So the primary issue we call attention to is around access and so the layout of the site and access to the site, transportation related. Town engineer has had a comment that he can discuss further regarding access off County Road. The applicants are proposing right in, right out. So there's some questions about how that can be adjusted or improved to better provide for safe access and meet the requirements in the ordinance. There's some additional issues that have been called up as well. Specified in the memo. So pedestrian access also needs to be provided for in accordance with the ordinance. Is within the pedestrian overlay zone. Blocks need to be shown with access to adjacent parcels or potential for future access. Parking needs to be addressed. So the ordinance requires that parking not be located in front of buildings. It strongly encourages on-street parking be provided for. We need some additional information about about water, provision of drinking water and sanitary sewer as well. There's several other comments that can be addressed, and also happy to address additional questions that come up from the board or from public comment. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Akerlof. Please.
Good evening. My name is James Lowry. I'm with BH2M. You all will know that, recognize that I'm no Andy Morrill, but bear with me nonetheless. Here with Christina Mitchell, the owner and applicant, along with Susan Duchesne, who's supporting in the development of the project. Hopefully you all can see, and I appreciate the introduction. The property is zoned in the South Gorham Commercial Corridor. It's situated along County Road, somewhat between the VIP and the Burnham Road intersection. There are a few pertinent site features that I wanted to address is that there is a 40-foot access easement that comes through the front portion of the lot. Here's County Road right up here. There's a 40-foot access easement that comes through this piece that, as I understand, Ms. Mitchell recently conveyed out of her ownership, but that easement provides access to the rear portion of the original lot that she still owns. There is this curtilage lot right here in the easterly portion of the site that is a bit of a mixed use and could have been part of the conversation of the number of units that are proposed within the project. That does have an existing commercial building, an existing single-family home, and an accessory dwelling unit that I believe are in construction. Yeah. So then that leaves the 32 proposed condominium units, separated out, broken out 4 units in 8 different buildings around the site. The master site development plan that we've prepared includes 2 phases. If you can see the red line that's on this plan, you've got phase 1 that includes the 16 units that are closest to County Road, plus 4 additional units down here in the south east portion of the site, and then the remaining 12 units are the ones located down here farthest from County Road. There has been a wetland delineation performed on the site by Mark Hampton. That's down here. We're mostly staying out of that wetland. There will be about 775 square feet of wetland impacts with the road and the associated grading. That will, of course, require a Army Corps of Engineer permit. We're also expecting to need to go to the DEP for a stormwater permit due to the amount of impervious area on site. It will be under? Okay, my apologies. I was misunderstood there. We were talking about access, the proposed right-in, right-out. That was reviewed by the town's peer review engineer with some comments, and I think we can work through with the town on how to address those as we move really from the master plan review into the review of the nuanced review of the site and subdivision plan. Each of these architectural renderings were provided in with the application. They're 1 unit, 1 bedroom units with a loft, really geared into the over 55 crowd that's looking to downsize and have a condo style of living. One comment that I'd like to note with regard to parking, each of these units do have a garage, driveway that's in excess of the typical parking lot size in front of each of these units. And as I understand typical zoning requirements for parking, is that the goal is to have the parking, when it's noted to be to the side and rear of a project or of the development, is that you've got the front line of the units, so right here on the county road side of units 1 through 8, and then all of the parking then is kept to either the side or rear of that front line of the development. So, and that's what we've done here, where you've got 2 spaces available for each unit, one within the garage and one in the driveway immediately outside of the garage. One of the, just looking at my notes, bear with me, one of the comments that we had reviewed in the letter from planning staff today was with regard to the distance between the proposed access drive. This will drive right here through the front lot, and that does maintain at least a 10-foot separation as the abutting owner had requested. And just to close and open it up to you all for any questions or further information, you know, we understand there, our preliminary application had some items that weren't included. We wanted to get that in front of the town to be able to start that review process. Many of the items are either fairly well along and will be forthcoming to town for review. Some have been provided, as noted. The vernal pool letter, for instance, was prepared and provided subsequent to our application. So I will close there and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions right now before we go into the public hearing?
I can say them afterwards if you prefer.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. If there is anyone here that would like to speak in favor of the project, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. I see no one rising. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is anyone here that would like to speak against the project, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. And finally, if there is anyone here that would like to speak about this project, one way or the other, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record. I see no one rising. I will close the public hearing. Mr. Walsh?
So, yes, thank you. Can you tell me, when I'm looking at your drawing, tell me about these stormwater tanks.
They're a subsurface stormwater tank that allows for the overland flow to go into a depression, a broader ditch, and go directly into the subsurface detention system. They're designed through with Ferguson Waterworks. We've sort of partnered with them on the stormwater design. So it's a form of underground detention, but it's a little different from other traditional underground detention systems where it's got to be directed in through catch basins and storm drains. This is allowed to flow directly in through from the surface.
And then, so it flows in, but how does it flow out?
I would have to honestly look at a little more. We've got, it's got an outfall going out to, sorry. It has some discharge points from each of them going to a storm drain that discharges down here into the wetland.
Okay, and then is there a collection facility? It's going out into the wetland, but is there any form of a detention area there before it gets into the wetland?
No, these are tanks provide for that detention.
So it leaches at a constant
At a
rate?
controlled rate.
Yeah, controlled rate, okay. And how are they sized?
We've sized those based on the input and collaboration through Ferguson to meet the attenuation and treatment requirements. They've got a whole calculation page that you work through based on amount of impervious developed area to go through that process and determine the number of tanks necessary for the drainage area.
And based upon certainly size storms?
Yes, I'd have to look back. I don't know. Typically, we're detaining up to the 25-year storm.
25-year.
Yeah. So typically the 2, 10, and 25.
Okay. With regard to parking, so each unit has the ability to have two cars, one in the garage, one in the driveway. Any provision be made for overflow if you want to have guests? Would they be expected to park out on the street if you have multiple guests? Or would there be a overflow parking area designated on the site?
No, I mean, I think the original intent was that these are very, very small, single bedroom type of units that but most of them would, if the owners had a car in the garage, then many times a guest would be able to park in the driveway. There are some areas, based on comments that we have received, that we could look to provide some additional parking if that was deemed necessary.
Okay. Other question, is there any provision or any plan for any open space within this development?
Yeah, can I address that for you, Jamie?
The open space?
Yep. Hi, I'm Susan Duchesne. I just wanted to mention on this site, it's kind of a unique site because the best case is that it's all sand and it's 8 feet to the water table. The worst case is that it's all sand and it's flat and, working with the stormwater has been challenging. So instead of dumping it into a pond or into a filter pond or whatever, these tanks are really creative. And I think the way I understand it is they just slowly go into the ground rather than putting them in one spot. So there is another 10 acres of open space that goes with this project, and we'll leave it rural. It won't be used for phase 2 development. It'll go with the subdivision.
It'll go with subdivision. So will it be under the control of and the ownership of the HOA, or would you retain ownership?
It'll be with the HOA.
Okay.
Could you tell us where is that?
Yeah, we don't have it. Well, this is the boundary survey. The approximate limit of development. So you've got the overall property boundary is this heavier dark line. The approximate limit of the development cuts across right around in here. So it's about 2/3 of the project area or the total property area.
Right, so the density calculations are 32 units, excluding those 3 out front. So we've done it on just what's remaining. And I think it leaves roughly 10 acres of open space. And it is pretty nice back there, actually, quite a bit of wildlife. Place to walk, go, whatever.
Please, Ms. Nichols.
Can I just expand on
Yeah.
that? One of the comments from staff's memo was with regard to more or less an overall plan of showing this lot and what I'm envisioning with the phases and this limit of development line that would cut right through here. So if we get to, hopefully we get to that point with the review of the master site plan and would acknowledge that could be a subsequent plan that we prepare for staff review that would document where the phases are and what the remaining undeveloped land is.
So I have, I guess, 2 questions. So one is, there's a limit which it appears to be because of the wetlands of where you can build. So you can only build in that first section because of where the wetlands are.
Correct.
And then earlier today, we had this discussion about connectivity and looking at how roads all connect, and you've got these two spurs that just go up to dead ends.
Well, wetland really
Is there any way of
doesn't-
making it be like a U so that you go up and you would continue
Well, we wanted
all
to
the
do that
way?
originally, but it wasn't received well. So that we pulled that back and came up with this plan. But wetland doesn't mean it's a swamp.
No.
I mean, it's beautiful out there most of the year. I mean, it's got some wet times. There's some uplands out through there too. It's not all wetlands. So it's not like it's unusable land. We could go out there and find some uplands, get permitted to put some road out there and do a second phase, probably in that back piece, but we've just opted not to do that.
And I didn't bring up the wetlands thinking that it was, swamp, and it's more, my understanding is too, those wetlands are a perfect place for you to be leaching out your
Absolutely,
septics.
yep.
I mean, it's just one of the values of it.
Right.
I was more thinking if you needed to get a certain number of units, if we could shift
As
it a
far
little
as our
to get
density,
that
yes.
U
Yes, as far as our
connecting around.
density calculations, yes, but I don't think we don't exclude wetlands anymore. They don't do like a density calculation per se in this zone. So, anyway, that's where they come up to is 32 units, so.
So the reason that the road's not connecting, what was the reason that didn't?
Well, we originally proposed a road that went in, kind of came around circular. We did these as tiny houses, and we're putting the parking on the street. We've been 8 months on this project, believe it or not. So that was not received. Next thing you know, we were told it had to be multi-family, so we had to put them together. And then a week ago, I heard from planning that they could go back to single family. So we've just, the money that's been spent on this project is kind of ridiculous. So we've decided to stay with this format. It's not what we wanted. We did not want 4-unit buildings. We wanted them individual tiny houses and a loop road, but it didn't happen.
Other members of the board?
I guess that just begs a question, throw it over to, ask staff if they could comment on this issue of single-family homes versus multifamily?
Yeah, so the comp plan and the zoning identifies that single-family and two-families are only allowed in this district as part of a mixed-use development. So if you are going to do single families or two families, you need to do typically something in the order of magnitude that would represent equal to the commercial. Commercial residential would be kind of equal, and then you could do the single families. If you don't have that commercial components, then you have to do multifamily. So that's the difference. So working with the applicant to identify different parts of the site where they're doing kind of one thing on one site and then doing something else that works for them on the other part of the site. So that's why you see the curtilage lot. The connection to the road, as we talked to before, could the interconnection be made possibly? It looks like it's pretty close to that other parcel. If they just did an easement or something to that other butter that would provide the connection, that could be something that would be accomplished.
And
Yeah,
just
and we've since learned that there are no percentages on what this mixed use needs to be. So I guess you could put an 8x8 building that sells eggs.
That's not correct. So you would need to be substantial.
Is there a percentage, Tom?
Yeah, so basically a home occupation, which is accessory, is 20%. So you would need to be in addition of.
No, I mean the whole project. Is there
Correct.
a
You would need to
percentage
be
that you need
above
to use?
20% of the gross floor area for the residential. So the commercial would need to be at least 20% of the gross floor area for the residential.
Oh, okay. Well, Damon didn't have that information for me, I guess. Anyway, here we are, so.
One additional piece of information on the roads too is the fire department did mention that they would like to see turnarounds.
Yeah.
at the end of Carroll and Moe Drive, as well as Thistle. So that was something that would need to be worked into the design, and potentially in conjunction with providing future connection to adjacent parcels. There could be some, we'd look for some reworking of the road layout as well.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Please, Mr. Walsh.
So I guess looking at this and following this line of thought on connectivity is, all right, if you have to go, you have 4-unit buildings, is it possible that you could do a 6-unit and take units 9 and 10 and latch them on to the 4-unit that is now 20 through 17, make that a 6-unit, and allow for a provision to connect Carroll Drive and Mo's Way to make a square. That way you would eliminate, you would not have any need for the hammerhead turns at the end of each one. I thought.
I'm not opposed to looking at that again. We don't want to lose any units to do it. We're trying to make these somewhat affordable, 75% over 55. So.
No, and that's why it's
we could certainly
purely
look
just
at that
around
again.
the suggestion is, yeah, can you lop off the 2 and just, move them over and make a 6-unit building? You already got a 4.
Right, right.
do a
No, I know what you're
6-unit,
saying.
And then you could have a square.
Or 2 3s and add a 4
Or,
or
a
something.
block design.
And the two things that I see right off the bat with that are ensuring you've got the good turning radius
Right.
right in through here with sufficient room
Yeah,
to be
for
able
the-
to make
for the
that
truck.
maneuver,
Yep.
as well as the stormwater tanks right here, and potentially some wells and septic systems that we would have to work through.
Yeah, no, I can see it because, and you have to ask, is there an opportunity to angle Mo's Way back a little bit to soften the blow,
Geometry-wise, I think you just lose units 9 and 10.
I was trying to find a way to.
No, I'm not saying lose them from the project. I'm just saying for connectivity, remove units 9 and 10 from where they are,
Right.
and then
Put them next to 17, that's where I was thinking.
any place that we're up.
Yeah.
I have a few questions, if you don't mind.
Certainly.
Septic tanks, I know everything flows downhill. It's supposed to flow downhill. So you'll be pretty deep when you're down into the south side of the project. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 septic tanks proposed. They'll also have to be pumped.
No, all the groundwater flow presumably follows the topography down towards the wetland.
Right, they'll all be gravity systems.
Yeah.
Mark Hampton has looked at these pretty closely and is confident that he can do either stone beds or Elgins. There won't be any pumps. They really
No,
won't be as deep as you think. I mean, you don't need
Excuse me, I'm not suggesting pumps. What I'm saying is, on the south side of the project, correct me if I'm wrong, those are all septic tanks.
No.
No, those are leach beds.
These boxes, these larger boxes are the septic fields.
I see distribution boxes. Are those not distribution boxes near the buildings?
Near the
These
buildings.
smaller ones are.
Well, where it says sewer line typical, is that not going to a septic tank?
That is leading from the tank down to a disposal field.
Oh, these leach fields.
So that's a leach field.
Right.
Yeah, so I think there's 1 tank for every 2 units, if I remember correctly, yeah. And then each building will have its own leach bed.
So these will never have to be pumped. What I'm curious about is access.
Oh, the tanks will have to be pumped,
Right.
like a regular tank.
I also interpreted your comment to be that they would have to be pumped to the septic tank.
No, you misconstrue my statement. I know everything flows downhill, okay? We hope to it. How is a truck going to access this area where we're on the south side of the site? It's perhaps wetland and impacted, et cetera.
Well, I think a septic truck, a vac truck could park right in here and run a hose right around to each one of those.
Well, these are the beds. The
No,
tanks
you've-
are all
you've
up by
got
the
a-
building. So
you've
they
got a
can
couple of tanks
access them
right back here,
right off the road, actually.
Yeah. Many of them would be able to be accessed.
See, the little ones, Mr. Hague,
That's a distribution box, which you just pointed to, I believe.
yeah, so like these are the tanks.
That's a distribution box.
Well, the tank's right, that's a
The-
tank,
the
and
t-
there's a distribution box.
Distribution
inside.
box, and then it flows down south to the bottom of the site.
Yes, and then they go down here to the beds.
Right.
But these
Where-
are 1,500 gallon tanks, so they won't be pumped any more, probably less than the average house.
Average one-bedroom house,
Yeah, they're one bedroom, so,
every couple of years, if they're somewhat conservative. So my question is, where is a truck going to be able to access to pump?
well, this one, Andy, I don't think you have all the tanks on here, but you have some of them. This truck could pull up and get that one. It could pull up here and get that one. I mean, they're pulling like, I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of hose, so,
I think there's ample locations through the site to get to each of these individual tank locations.
yeah, I do too.
Okay, I'm looking in my, my planning department notes on page 6 of 11. Peer review, traffic engineer. Who might that be? Thank you. Trying to identify people, I mentioned it last month, and that's quite all right. On page 8 of 11, there's a notation under property description. It says resulting in 30 dwelling units. It should be 32, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Page 9 of 11, it's highlighted on our notes. It says the applicant needs to state on the master plan the type of access that is intended. Right now, we're talking about right turn in, right turn out, correct? That's what's on the drawing. However, Mr. Walsh?
Yeah, keep going.
There was a request that the applicant should show the open space to the rear of the parcel. That's on page 10. I think Mr. Walsh brought this up to subsection 5, off-street parking, not allowed on the front side or rear. And we don't expect anyone to be visiting, apparently, just someone parking in the garage, maybe in the driveway. So this master plan, if approved, how much can it vary from the next phase?
The next phase would need to be consistent with the master plan. So there's some details that are not included in the master plan that would be included in the site plan and subdivision.
So they're not an omission because they're not right now on the master plan, is that correct?
That's correct.
It's
The
not
master
considered to be,
plan
it's
is-
not considered to be an omission.
It's correct, it's conceptual.
Okay.
And it provides a framework for within which the next, in this case, 2 phases of development can occur.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman?
Please, Mr. Walsh.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time, you know, I've read both sections, I'm having a hard time keeping them separate. And, but there are 2 issues that I think I'd like to hear about in terms of, look at the master plan, but I think they're in my notes for the next section, but, and that's this right in, right out. Chuck, you offered some comments, I'd like to hear from you on that. And then I'd also like to hear from staff regarding the, this parcel is subject to a contract zone, and that has to be rescinded if I'm not correct.
But the contract zone has been rescinded.
All right, thank you. All right, so just really, I'd like to hear, Chuck, your thoughts on this right in, right out.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. So I made a comment that I'm concerned about the right-in, right-out proposal based on the Route 22 County Road, just because of the residential nature of this development, the fact that it restricts movements westbound from this development, but it also restricts ingresses heading west, which seem to be a major thoroughfare for that area. It would also, I believe, be relatively inconsistent with the Route 22 corridor in this area. Most of the businesses and developments around there do allow both left and right movements in and out of the development or those sites. In my experience, right-in, right-outs can be circumvented pretty easily. People can go around those medians or try to make a left-hand turn into that development, which could back up traffic. It also would make a relatively unsafe condition for turning into that site if you're heading westbound. Now, one of the suggestions made by the peer review engineer was to add a median on County Road, Route 22, that would further discourage and limit the ability to make a left-hand turn into the site or make a left-hand turn out of the site. I have some concerns on that for a couple of reasons. There is a commercial component of that curtilage lot. It's not to say that there are going to be trucks moving in and out of that development, but there could be trucks coming into that site. Trucks coming from the east would have to either make a nice big loop around Gorham, however route they wanted to take to come in from the west, heading east to take a right-hand turn into the development, or use another site along 22 to make a U-turn. And so I have some major concerns just from the thought of trying to get around town or trying to get into Gorham from this site. You would otherwise have to head east, either make a U-turn or find a different, longer way to get into downtown Gorham. So again, I'm raising those concerns. And again, if you take the suggestion of the peer review engineer, you'd have to add some width to County Road to be able to achieve that raised median. And if we're adding width to County Road, would it not make more sense to be consistent with that corridor and add a two-way left turn lane to facilitate the safety in that area?
So you're yeah, thank you. That's a very, very good rundown of this issue. So what I'm hearing from you is you would recommend a left turning lane?
I think to be consistent with the corridor, a two-way left turn lane or a dedicated left turn lane into the site would expand or would widen 22 in that area and then allow you to taper down on either side. I would bring attention to, I believe, about 750 to 800 feet to the east is where the left turn lane for, is it VIP? VIP starts and widens out County Road 22. So it would be relatively consistent with that.
And if this was to be, does the town have the right to be able to do it, or do we have to go to the state on that?
The town has the right to require the center left turn lane. That VIP improvement was a requirement for a town approval. They just got to go through and meet state design requirements, but it can be a town approval.
Yeah, and it's a good one, because I mean, I've tried to get out of VIP and take a left out of VIP, and sometimes you can't do that. You got to go right.
You need a faster car.
Oh, thank you. I'll tell my wife.
Could I comment on that, Mr. Chairman? We did hire a traffic engineer to do a traffic study. He did come back and recommend a right turn in, right turn out. There's lots of times during the day when you easily could go left on County Road, 5 or 6 in the morning. I'm not gonna say there's a lot of times, 10 to 12, there's a lot of times throughout the day and the evening. So I think his thought was making, the low, whatever you call that little island thing, that you can go left on when you're able to. I don't believe DOT would ever allow, he said absolutely not on a widening of 22, because that's just going to encourage faster traffic and more danger, and no islands out on 22. But we did hire him to do that study, and I think he did a pretty good job of it.
Please, Ms. Nichols. I'm sorry, Mr. Walsh, were you done?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm not, I don't like the idea of the right in, right out. And then also, any type of raised surface is hell with plowing.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have to remember too, these are majority over 55. So, we don't see, a couple of cars and then a teenager and this and that, and, probably not a ton of traveling. Going right, they can go to any grocery store, any bank, Unum, if they're still working, whatever. It doesn't mean they can't go left, but they may have to go down and turn around at Dunkin' Donuts.
Thank you. Ms. Nichols, please.
Well, I was just curious, and you partly answered that as to why you would want to right in, right out.
I didn't want one, but that's what we would, the traffic engineer recommends.
What I read in his memo was that the right in, right out maintains the level of service on 22 to what it is currently.
Right, I think it encourages people to do that, but they don't necessarily do it. Like I said, if it's 6 in the morning and there's no traffic, they're gonna go left if that's the way they wanna go. So putting up some big island to stop them from doing that doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, I personally don't like those, but I do know that I go to, my veterinarian is right there. And there happens to be a little extra lane. I don't know if it's going down, what road it's going down, but I kind of sit in the middle of both lanes.
Right.
Waiting to get in, which is only worried about one side. But when you're coming to go out,
Right.
fortunately, there's a traffic light, so most people, if that light is red, have slowed way down and you can finally get out.
Well, I assume from what I've been reading, they'll be widening 22 at some point here. So,
With the turning lane.
since we don't have a
in the middle?
turnpike anymore, so, a turnpike spur, it doesn't sound like, so. I'm sure 22 will be looked at.
I would think that if you have a right in, right out, if it's designed that way, that you're expected to use that. You're not expected to
You are
sneak out a
expected to,
left
but
or in
I think
a left
Natalie's
or-
a good example. Natalie Drive, which is kind of in the center of Gorham. Same thing, they recommended the right in, right out with a very low island so that, because some people just won't do it. They're gonna go left anyway. So, and if there's no traffic, let them go left, I guess, but.
The purpose, just to interject here, the purpose of the right in, right out would be to limit the left turning movements in from County Road 22 and maintain the level of service on 22. So the problem that you might have is if you are able to turn left into the site and you're stopped on 22 waiting for a lot of traffic heading east, you're backing up all that traffic.
Because
trying to
it's
head
not
west.
wide enough to get people
Correct,
around
and then the
without
purpose of a two-way left turn lane would be to allow that space to move, or that car to move into that two-way left turn lane and wait for a gap in traffic and allow everybody to pass on the right-hand side.
Slip lane.
I think there was a comment about widening 22 is not reasonable. I don't see that being correct. It is consistent with that corridor. There's widenings for turn lanes at Mitchell Hill Road. There's a widening for the left turn lane into the site up at 114 in County Road. And VIP, I keep forgetting, is it VIP or O'Reilly's, whatever, the tire shop there. And then to extend into Scarborough on the other side of 114, there's two-way left turn lane all the way up to the light at Saco Street. So
O'Donnell's all along.
O'Donnell's all
Yeah.
along. So it is relatively consistent with the corridor.
Again, the recommendation from the traffic study we did was right turn in, right turn out. The peer review agreed with that, so here we are. And these are not
The peer review,
people with
sorry,
3 or 4 cars per
I just want to
household.
make a point of clarification. The peer review engineer agreed with the traffic study with some caveats to adding raised median in 22 to strictly limit the left turn in and out. Because those mountable
Is that how you wrote that in?
medians do not completely discourage.
Doesn't
left in,
stop
left out.
anyone. No.
So I guess this board will have to decide, do we go?
Thank you.
go with that?
To move this thing along, me personally, I'm absolutely against, and here's the sole reason, for public safety access vehicles. Is someone going to tell me that a fire truck is going to go all the way down, maybe by King's Farm Stand, make a U-turn, and then come back in and go in? Or will public safety, police, fire, whoever, emergency, over 55 crowd, we may have an ambulance show up once in a while. Is someone going to tell me that you will be required to go all the way down and they make a U-turn and go around town? I don't know. This is my own personal opinion. Now, I would like to see a slip lane, just like all of the other businesses to the east and west of this. We go up the street a little bit further, there's slip lanes and stuff like that. Putting a little barrier in the middle of the road, that's just inviting someone to do it. It would be very, very discouraging for me. Yes, I totally agree. It's going to speed things up, getting in and out. If you go all the way around town and then come back in, right out, no questions asked. My personal opinion is I worry about public safety vehicles and accessing the site. If no one else is worrying, then it's just on me.
So if I may,
Yes.
what I would suggest is we go back, confer with our traffic engineer, and come up with either further justification or an alternative solution.
Does that have to be part of the master plan?
Yes, I mean, we would want to see that safe access to the site is provided for. And also some additional details we'd look for regarding transportation as well that have come up. That includes the turnarounds. So speaking of emergency vehicle access, yes, there may be, some emergency response needed, as mentioned. So the discussion of the full loop around could be something that they'd look for them to potentially add to the plan, as well as the parking right now, the way it's proposed does not meet the ordinance requirements, and that is not something that can be waived. So we look for on-street parking or parking to be provided for not in front of the buildings.
Yeah.
I'll note there are not setbacks because this is condominiums. However, the ordinance does specify that parking cannot be in front of the building. So that's not a question of setbacks. It's a geometric kind of configuration question. So right now, this doesn't meet the master site development plan requirements. And it sounds like there are some additional changes you'd like to see. It would be important to include those in the master site development plan so that the future plans approved for subdivision site plan would then be consistent with that.
Thank you. Please.
Just a thought, is if you did relook at the way that road goes and make it go around and shift some of those units, you don't actually lose a unit, but relocate it.
No, we're willing to do that. We're willing to do that.
When that road goes around, all of a sudden, you may find that you've got side for extra parking on one side of that crossover road or the other side.
I don't think we need extra parking. I mean, these are one-bedroom units.
But it sounds like you might.
They have two spots. They have a spot in the garage and they have a driveway. I don't really think we need more than that.
I think it's unrealistic to think that people, would not park in the driveway right in front of their house, similar to, what all of us likely do with a garage at our own homes. And that the requirement is for 2 spaces per unit, and that's what is provided.
Members of the board, where are we with this, please?
Mr. Chair, if you're asking, I would say that we are at a point where I would like to postpone approval.
Is that your motion, sir?
If you would like that, I would move to postpone further review of Mitchell Woods condominiums request for master plan approval pending responses to remaining issues. And I think Damon just did a wonderful job of outlining those. So Damon, if you could. So I would say as amended by the planning board or the planning staff. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Delaney? I skipped over you last time. Thank you. So the idea here, the motion is to postpone approval. We've had a lot of discussion, some of it on traffic, some of it on connectivity of the driveways, the things. I'm just going to make this comment, just consider the source. I see you have named Carroll Drive and Mo's Way, and I know somebody, E11, 911, will determine the names of the roads, right? You have to give 3 names. Have those been approved?
No. There's a review process. Applicants submit, 3 potential names. They're
Right.
reviewed by emergency responders, public works, and planning, and then they'll be approved. If any of them are approved, then they can move forward with naming the streets.
So I'm only suggesting, I see Carroll Drive and I see Mo's Way, but please know that they may not be allowed. I don't know that.
Oh, no, I realize that. If they're
Okay.
so we'll go back to one name, so.
So we had a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be, work with town staff, and we'll be back, get some revised materials in front of you guys.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm looking at item 4. I think it's become a moot point.
Yeah.
Since we don't have a master plan.
So, the board would not be able to approve item 4, however, they can still provide additional feedback to the applicants if the applicants and the board would like to discuss it. Otherwise, the item could be tabled at your discretion and with input from the applicants.
So should we,
I will cut to the chase. I am looking at, again, this is a public hearing.
Correct. It's been advertised as a public hearing.
should we ask the applicant if there's any reason that they need to go over this?
Well, as
Or just table it the same?
I look through the item on, item 4, I'm looking, there was so much yellow on this. Pages and pages and pages of yellow, of conditions that have not been met, and I do not want to go back to the conditions of approval and say everything that was in this is done. I don't want to waste anyone's time. I respect everybody's time here to have a public hearing. There was no public hearing on the previous
Yeah.
master plan. Am I within my,
Yeah, I think the planning board could definitely table it, should you choose, but this was advertised for a public hearing, so whether you choose to hear it or table it, I would recommend just opening the public hearing to see if anybody has any concerns that weren't raised by the planning board, and then if you want to table it, that's fine.
ready, I respect that, okay. I don't know if we need an introduction.
Just briefly, so the project that was just discussed is also before you for preliminary subdivision and site plan review. So because the master plan was not approved, they'll have to come back with some edits. And as mentioned, there are some items that we would look for in order to provide additional review of the item, Class A soil survey, homeowner association documents, nitrate plume analysis, photometric plan, proof of financial capacity, vehicle turning movement plans, water supply well data. We'd look for further information on state and federal permits. I will mention the outstanding taxes that are noted here have been paid. That issue has been resolved. So there were outstanding taxes on the parcel that the easement passes through to access County Road, and that's been resolved. So that's noted here. Just want to mention that on the record, that's been resolved. There are additional items, which I won't list at this time. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Real quickly, on page 11,
Yes.
I would please ask Mr. Marino to add his last name. Conservation Commission,
Yes, we will
thank you,
mention that. Thank you.
in case there's another bill. Thank you, I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. I would like to have anyone that wants to speak in favor of this preliminary subdivision and site plan review, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. I see no one rising. Ladies and gentlemen, if there is anyone that would like to speak against this project, please go to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Again, I see no one rising. And ladies and gentlemen, if there is anyone that is neutral that would just like to speak to the project, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Again, I see no one rising. I will close the public hearing. Thank you. Members of the board,
To move?
go, Joe.
I would like to, Mr. Chairman, I would like to move to postpone further review of Christina Mitchell's. I can't do that yet?
We're going to table this. We haven't done anything.
Or I meant to table, can't motion to table
I was suggesting,
that we just tabled.
Mr. Walsh?
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I move that we table item 4?
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Mr. Walsh, Nichols. Members of the board, just for your own knowledge, the master site plan needs to have some polishing. And I don't think it gives any merit for us to continue reviewing this. There is a lot of yellow in this, and we know in other projects, when we've had this much, there was a lot to be worked on. And I know that they're working hard, and they will continue to work hard to get this information done. But right now, we're going to table, we may table this. If we vote to table it, we will look to the planning department to reschedule.
Yep.
Everyone understand the motion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you.
May I ask a quick procedural question with
Sure.
staff? Curious when the next meeting will be. Is that going to be in 2 weeks?
We have a meeting scheduled for August 3rd, I believe.
So about a month?
That's correct.
First Monday of the month?
And then what's your typical time frame to receive information to be able to get onto that?
Why don't you contact staff and we can get you all the dates for submissions and requirements?
Well, there's only 2 or 3 items you're waiting on, but then we've got to wait another one.
I can't hear a word you're saying. Could you speak to the microphone, please?
There's only 2 or 3 items that are on Damon's, I know there's 44 pages, but there's only, vernal pools, which we submitted today. I don't even know what else is, we're finishing up the stormwater, that's basically it.
I have page 14, I have page 15, I have page 16, I have page 17, I have page 19.
No,
I
there's
have page-
44 pages, I'm not arguing with you,
No,
but
I
they all
know.
say the same thing. They're not requiring anything, they just talk about a lot of things.
But they're conditions that haven't been met
I
yet.
think there's 5 or 6 things on the list that he
They're
actually...
conditions that haven't been met yet.
Huh?
They are conditions that have not been met yet, that are highlighted on our,
No, they aren't, actually. There's...
you perhaps don't get a highlighted copy. This is for the planning department and gives this to the planning board?
Well, there's some things about talking about, I've given you a traffic study. I know you want to keep talking about it, but there's actually one page where he's got 5 or 6 items. It's a Class A soil survey that was turned into the nitrate study guy the other day, so that's being wrapped up.
Yeah, but
Homeowners documents.
we've already voted and regretfully, it needs to be tabled and we will be jumping on this when you come back again.
Right, I'm just confirming that it's a month from now. You're not having a second meeting in
I think for the legal dissemination of information, we can't do it in 2 weeks. You can't do it in 2 weeks. You have to have a notice posted. They can speak to it legally.
Yep, that's correct. And the deadline would be July 14th. I believe that's the submission deadline.
Did you hear that, Mr. Lowry? The submission deadline is July 14th.
Okay. Thank you for confirming that.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you come back. How are we doing? Anyone need a break? We don't have a wet bar. Don't look like that. Are we?
Like one, too?
Well, we're not stopping the meeting. We're just grabbing some water. Anyone else? Ladies and gentlemen, Moving on to the discussion section of our agenda. Our item 5 is actually been removed at the request of the applicant. Thank you. So we're moving on to item 6. This is going to be oh,
Sorry, I'm taking care of everybody.
anyone else? Water? Thank you. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Item 6, discussion, private way amendment. Kiera Duffy, am I saying that properly? Kiera Duffy and Alex Creeder, Tuscan Way. A request to dissolve a recorded private way to be replaced by a backlot driveway, map 54, lot 16-4, zone rural. The applicants are self-represented. Would someone from planning like to open this, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. It doesn't appear that the applicants are present this evening. However, I'd be happy to introduce the item. So it's, I would say, a relatively straightforward request. What their applicants are looking to do, they did work with Andy Morrill, who is here, from DH2M. So the applicants are looking to dissolve a one-lot private way that was approved by the planning board last year in March 2024. I believe it was the last one-lot private way that was approved before that was removed from the ordinances and replaced with our back lot standard, which allows for development of one lot behind another, even if it doesn't have sufficient road frontage. So there's some advantages to the applicant for not having a one lot private way, but instead having a conventional backlot driveway. So that's what they're looking to do. In reviewing their proposal, they're not looking to actually construct anything new. This is simply removing the approved private way right-of-way. That would allow them to build a structure closer to the location of their driveway where they'd like to build one, a shed in this case. That does not require planning board approval. So what does require planning board approval, however, is removing the private way, because that's subject to planning board review. And one minor edit to the plan that we would look to before it can be approved would be to show that there is a 12-lot driveway. The plan shows it being 11.5 feet, 12 feet is the required width. That's the paved width. They do have 2-foot gravel shoulders on each side. Driveways are only required to be a gravel surface, so we believe that the ordinance requirements are met. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you and the board, and happy to answer any discussion, or any questions that come up during discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Yakulov. Sadly, the applicants aren't here. Andy, would you like to speak to this, please?
Good evening, Andy Morrill, civil engineer with BH2M. I was not intending to speak tonight. I'm here for other items, and the applicant is not here, so I'm happy to discuss this item with the board. I prepared this plan for the applicants. As the board would probably recall, there was a private way approved on this piece for Dakota Cummings. I believe that was in 2023 timeframe. It was recently built. The applicants purchased the lot from Dakota Cummings, built their house, and are now, as Damon said, looking to potentially add a shed or some other structure, which is problematic with the setbacks off of the right-of-way. Since this private way, previously known as Tuscan Way, was approved, the town has come up with a backlot ordinance, which this lot can meet and not require frontage along a private way. So the applicant is looking to dissolve the private way to allow them some flexibility on their lot to build a shed or some other structures and not have setback issues off of the right-of-way. The road or driveway, as you will remain as it is today, just simply eliminating the right-of-way that was associated with the previous private way. So, and we have no problem updating the plan to 12 feet wide, as Damon suggested prior to the board endorsing the plan.
Thank you. Attendant to the 11.6, 11.5 feet. if the pavement is only 11 and a half feet, why do we have to put 12 feet?
The backlot ordinance requires a 12-foot driveway, so we wanted to just specify that that is the width of the driveway that is required. I look to the town engineer to see if he has any further thoughts on that.
So the backlot ordinance has two requirements. It has if there's one unit served on a backlot, it needs to be a 12-foot wide driveway. If there's two units served on the backlot, it needs to be a 16-foot driveway. So the applicant built, don't quote me on the width, but I believe it's 16 feet of total width of road that was built as part of the private way. That was a gravel private way. The homeowners or the applicants have come forward and paved a portion of that. That's what the 11 and a half feet is. So there's a portion of gravel on either side of that meets the town requirements of the back lot.
And you mentioned that.
So we want that to be reflected on the plan.
So we're going to say 12-foot width, not 12-foot pavement.
It's actually 16 feet of width out there, and it's semantics at this point. The driveway is way overbuilt.
But for future use, should it say 16 feet to prevent them from coming back?
It should show the existing case of 16 feet of gravel drive with the 11 and a half foot pavement overlay. That would be perfectly adequate.
That would allow the applicant to build an accessory dwelling unit if they wanted to at some point in the future without having to go back for approvals.
Great.
That's true.
Touche, thank you. Good evening.
Hi, sorry, I'm Kira Duffy. I'm the property owner. Sorry I was late. I didn't expect to be rushed through you were rushed through the previous two.
We've got all the information we have. No disrespect to you. We can just keep moving along if you don't mind.
Sounds great.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Sorry. Andy's done a great job on your behalf. Members of the board?
Mr. Chairman, if you are ready to
Walsh,
entertain
please.
a motion.
Motion.
Okay. And move to grant Kara Duffy and Alex Creeder's request for dissolution of a 447-foot private way on map 54, lot 16, and situated in the rural zoning district off Wood Road with the existing development to conform to town's backlot standards based on its findings and facts with conditions of approval as written by the town planner. And did we amend it?
They need to amend the drawing?
Is that an amendment or are we good?
No, that'd be a staff comment.
All right. So as, I guess, and with conditions approval as written by the town planner, period.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney. I think it's pretty straightforward. We're going to amend the drawing. We don't have to worry about that. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. Quickest meeting you've ever been to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You could have left your car running.
Thanks for showing up. Ladies and gentlemen, moving along. This is item 7. Item 7 on our agenda, it's a discussion. Subdivision amendment, Ali Omur and Carmen Schneider. A proposal to amend an existing subdivision to create 2 additional lots on 79 Day Road, map 23, lot 7, zone urban residential expansion. The applicant is represented by Andy Morrow, PE with BH2M. Would someone from planning like to open this up for us?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So this is the first time application for this subdivision amendments come before the board. The subdivision itself was granted planning board approval in September 2024, so it may be fresh to many of you. What their applicant is looking to do is to split off 2 additional parcels for development. One of the parcels would be a backlot, and it meets the requirements in the town's new backlot provision. The other parcel would have conventional road frontage. Both parcels are proposed to be served by a shared driveway. Additionally, the driveway was proposed to also provide access to the existing farmhouse. The major limitation for driveways in this case revolves around site distance. So what the applicants are looking to do is improve site distance for access to the lots. to the maximum extent practicable. So many of the natural resource and soil conditions and those sort of parameters have been reviewed previously during the subdivision approval. So the additional, so what they're looking to do this evening is divide off the additional lots and create access to them via those that shared driveway. A few staff comments to address really have to do primarily with the driveway. So we look for homeowners association documents to be provided for review. That would include the shared maintenance between those 3 lots. Financial capacity documentation is a standard item that needs to be provided. Design plans for the access drive should be provided. And the driveway does need to meet the 16-foot requirement for back lot, since more than one dwelling unit will be utilizing it. And with that, Mr. Chair, turn it back over to you. Happy to address any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Yakulov. Andy, would you please?
Good evening, Andy Morrill, BH2M. I apologize to the board. I wasn't here earlier on the other items that came up on the agenda. I had a conflict. I was in Standish at a planning board meeting there, so my apologies there. Here representing Ali Omer, I know many of the members of the board were part of this board when this subdivision was approved. This is at 79 Day Road. The board will recall the applicant got a 2-lot subdivision approved. Those lots are to the east of the existing farmhouse, if you will. Those lots have been sold by the applicant and are currently being built on. The applicant resides in the farmhouse that was part of Lot 3 as part of the original subdivision plan. What the applicant is looking to do is to split Lot 3, where the farmhouse is, and add 2 additional lots, which is why I've labeled them 3A and 3B to try to ease on the confusion, and you can tell me whether that eased or whether that made it more difficult or not, but I thought it made sense. So we are looking to add Lot 3B, which has frontage on Day Road and access back to the buildable portions of the site. Lot 3A, as Damon mentioned, is a back lot. Access to Lot 3A will be through an access easement over Lot 3B. So kind of that gray hatched area on your plan will be a shared driveway for units the buildings on 3A and 3B.
Andy, do I see a connecting, so I know the existing 79A and B have a shared driveway.
Yes.
I see where it says new drive. Is that a horizontal parallel to Day Road?
Yes, that's a good segue into my next point. So if the board remembers, when we discussed this subdivision previously, access onto Day Road was the issue, right? The site distance along Day Road is problematic in a lot of locations along this site. It's got some grade and it's got some curves to it. So what we met with town staff and talked about ways that we could potentially add some lots to this Lot 3, and what would be the best way to do that, the safest way to do that. What we all kind of agreed upon was that let's see if we can find a location where we can put a driveway on Day Road that could meet the site distance requirements in the ordinance. This is a 35-mile-an-hour zone. We need 305 feet of site distance to meet the town ordinance. So we went out, survey located along that street to try to find an area where we could strategically place this driveway to maximize the site distance, to make it the safest location that we can. That's the location that we've picked there, that kind of gray hatched area. You've got about 350 feet of site distance in either direction. It's a little bit less looking to the left or to the south, if you will.
West?
It's like 348, something like that.
Towards the west, right?
Yep. So that location is the ideal location for lots 3A and 3B. The discussion then went to the existing driveway at the existing farmhouse. Coming out of that driveway, comes straight from the building out to Day Road. Looking to the east is problematic. I think you have 260 feet of sight distance looking in that direction. So the conversation became, can we do something as part of this application to improve the sight distance of that driveway as well? Which is why the applicant's driveway on what is going to be Lot 3 is then looking to be rerouted over to this other location that will provide additional sight distance looking to the east along Day Road. So that's what that kind of third driveway is going over there, is a closing off of the applicant's existing driveway and connecting it to this common driveway on that side of the site. We did have a PRC meeting with staff last week. I don't think there were any major issues raised as part of that. We did receive town comments last week. I think they're mostly not minor in nature. I think we can address those prior to the board endorsing those. Some of the items we will be providing is a roadway or driveway maintenance agreement, as Damon had mentioned, financial capacity. The applicant is more than happy to provide that information if needed. There isn't a ton of infrastructure required as part of this project, but if that's something the board is looking for, we're happy to provide that. There was some discussion about making sure the driveway is 16 feet wide because it's supporting multiple units. We're more than happy to provide that information. Then the nitrate plume analysis, the applicant would be requesting a waiver from that requirement. A waiver of the nitrate analysis was granted for the original subdivision. These are obviously significantly larger lots than what's required. I think the total density this lot could support is 7. I think with these configurations, we're looking at 5 lots on the parcel. Lots 3A and 3B, the buildable portions of those lots are certainly 200 to 300 feet from any of those existing houses and lots. I don't think there's going to be any conflicts with any of that. I think this is, in my opinion, a good location to consider granting that waiver, but I would like to have that discussion with the board this evening. With that, Mr. Chairman, that's pretty much all I had. I'm happy to answer any question that the board has, and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy, I travel Day Road frequently, for the good or the bad. If I'm coming east from 114...
Yes.
You got to have a huge radius. I can't imagine slowing down and taking a really, really sharp, hard right, which is probably, 135 degrees or something like that.
Are you talking here?
No, keep going. No, right. No, keep going.
Here,
right there.
Yep.
Coming off Day. I mean, you might have the line of sight.
Yep.
But that angle coming back, I mean, I think you'll admit it. That's treacherous. That is really treacherous. Day Road, for those of you who don't, hilly, curvy, left, right, up and down. There's frequently deer going around the pond.
Oh, I would agree. Yep.
Beautiful area, but
it is. And so what we're showing there is a 30-foot wide access easement. There's going to be a 16-foot driveway in that. So I think there's some wiggle room to make that, as we come off Day Road, more perpendicular for a little ways. I think we may be able to look into maybe potentially modifying that easement a little bit to allow us a little more ability to come off more perpendicular than at that angle.
Sure. I apologize, I jumped the gun. Members of the board, please. Mr. Walsh, please.
Andy, is this with the build out of the proposed build out of lot 3? Is this the end of the build out of this parcel?
I was just getting confirmation from the applicant. Yes, that there's no additional intended build out on this parcel.
And there was some requests in here, I think, from Phil Moreno about trail connectivity. Did you see those?
I did.
And what's your thoughts on that? Can you take a look at that and respond?
I will talk to the applicant. I don't know if the applicant has any thoughts on that, but I know it sounds like there's an existing trail in the CMP corridor that's back there. I don't know if you've given that any thought.
Snowmobile.
Yes.
Yeah, sounds like the applicant's willing to have a discussion about that, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Other members of the board? Just for the record, we have received 2 letters. Mr. Roger Brown has written, and Susie Ogier has written. Both were asking for us to review these with great detail. I would venture to say that they were not looking forward to these projects. I won't read the letters. They'll be entered into the minutes anyways. One of the comments I will speak to this, Mr. Brown mentions that I guess on the original applicant, I haven't seen this. It says the proposed subdivision, the applicant has answered no and not applicable to the question, is the property an important natural or historic site or adjacent to such a site? It is yes, and in fact, my backyard sort of abuts this. It's a nature preserve, quite literally a nature preserve. Narragansett Game Sanctuary says 100-year-old state established. And with different projects being developed in the area, we see the wildlife all the time where they used to be able to hide. But thank you for that. Members of the board. Yes, please, Mr. Nicholas.
I just want to tag on to that. So we have a game sanctuary in town, and it appears that that game sanctuary is right in the middle of the growth
The
zone.
game sanctuary goes from Day Road to McClellan and from Brackett. I don't know if it really goes over to 114, but it's deep. It's in that entire, and the signs are posted. And November 1st, all the deer cross the road and come over to our side.
So being a game sanctuary means nothing at all?
There was a legal definition in the newspaper not too long ago. It's a description, but it's not restricted.
All it has to do is restricts hunting in that area. It has nothing to do with land use. It has nothing to do with use of the parcel. All it's doing is restricting the ability for people to hunt in that corridor. You can still trap there if you believe it, but you can't hunt there, and it has nothing to do with land use. It was something that the state had identified 100 years ago when my guess is game species were less abundant, and so there are multiple locations throughout the state that these are found. One of them is Gorham. There was discussion at the legislature, I don't remember how long ago, but in the relatively near or past that identified removing them from the state. They just never moved forward with it. But it really just limits hunting.
I bet it's 5 years.
Probably.
Because it was fresh in my mind because of recent project developments and clear cutting. We see wildlife frequently, and now we see it even more. There's no place for them to hide.
Well,
I apologize.
but to tag on to that, and it is just that it's not so much that there's no place for them to hide, but we keep on taking their habitat, and we just keep on doing it. So if a game sanctuary doesn't mean anything, which it sounds like it's just an old term, do we have terms that protect wildlife areas? Because I remember reading a letter to the editor or something about this same subject, and I thought to myself, if we have a game sanctuary, why is it that we're just cutting it down and destroying it? So something needs to shift there.
It's a terminology. So if it was a wildlife management area identified by the state and that was owned by the state, then yes, they can limit how it's used. There will not be people owning it. There will not be development on it. So it will be state owned. It will be preserved for whatever the state identifies that resource to be utilized for. There's a number of them throughout the state. Vern Walker Wildlife Management Area, I think is the closest one to here. I think it's up in Baldwin somewhere. But so there are a number of them that the state owns that they manage the wildlife. There's hunting on them. They do a whole bunch of things. This is a game sanctuary that, again, was passed by the legislature 100 years ago to just identify hunting restrictions. That is it.
So there's no ownership by the town or the state
Correct.
that goes along with that?
Nope. Private ownership.
That might be
And
something.
this is the CMP corridor where the natural gas pipeline comes through.
Yeah.
So we don't want anyone shooting against the 36-inch gas pipeline.
No.
Well, it's also, I would think that it's no shooting, no hunting there because there are houses there. I mean, that you're inside the town, the town limits, so, okay.
We
I just-
digress, we
yes,
digress.
but it's a
Members of
good
the board,
point.
any questions for Andy?
No question.
Mr. Poirier did bring up an issue for the board.
Yeah, the only thing that proposes a problem currently is the financial capacity, because the requirement is that the board will not approve any plan if the applicant has not proven its financial capacity to undertake it. So you guys have to identify that the financial capacity exists. It's nothing you can delegate to us. So there are certain requirements that identify the submission. So you would have to say he has the financial capacity to complete the project. So that's one item. You could put it on a consent agenda, just have him submit that and then meet it at just a consent agenda item. But that is one thing that can't be kind of delegated to us. That's something you have to.
Right.
And there's a long history of why that's written like that. It goes back to a developer not proving financial capacity and then selling lots illegally that on a subdivision that will never be approved. So that's why it's specific, and that's why those submission requirements are what they are for the board.
Yes, thank you. All the others could be met in meeting with the planning
Correct.
department, but that one I understand, and I've asked about financial capacity letters before, most recently on another project. Members of the board, any questions, any comments for Mr. Morrow, planning department? We can go through the pages if you'd like, any other things for conditions, but one is the condition of showing financial capacity. It hasn't been met yet. Please, Mr. Walsh.
Well, I like the recommendation of placing on the consent agenda. If, Andy, you think that can be met,
Yes.
then I think that's a very practical solution. Unless anybody else has other issues, realizing if it goes on consent agenda, we don't discuss it, we just approve the consent agenda at the future meeting once we've been told that it has been met. Correct? Damon?
That's correct.
Thank
And we
you.
could also look at the homeowners association documents and all the other relatively, I would agree, minor issues that have come up.
Was there a request to waive?
The nitrate plume analysis?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the only one I saw.
So,
I don't see that within, but I'm sure it
The
is.
board did waive that during the review of the
79A
subdivision
B.
that was approved
Yeah.
last year.
and don't we have to formally approve that waiver or vote on it?
We typically do, but I don't,
Actually looked at
it's usually highlighted.
Correct.
Fourier, do they have to approve that again?
Different lots.
Yeah, I would just go through the motions of granting the approval for a nitrate plume analysis as identified in the first phase of the subdivision.
Did everyone hear Mr. Poirier?
Yes, I can try. So, Damon, I'll.
Go, Mr. Walsh.
All right, I move that the requirement for a nitrate plume analysis be waived for this subdivision as described on 79 Day Road on map 23, lot 7, zoned urban residential, am I reading the right thing? Yes, urban residential expansion.
Yep.
Want me to do that again?
You got it. That,
All
I believe that
All right.
describes what you want to do and is correct.
All right, that is the motion to waive the nitrate plume analysis.
Yep.
Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Mr. Delaney, thank you. I think it's pretty straightforward. Those of us that were sitting here before approved that on 79B, so I think we understand what we're doing. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. Now we have the actual motion on page 14. However, I saw you nod, and I would like to hear you say yes, that we will grant consent agenda as long as you're telling us you're going to see a letter of financial capacity.
Sure, we'd be happy to provide that.
You said yes?
Yes, I did, yes.
Someone? Mr. Frank, I'm sorry.
That's all right, you weren't looking at me. There's on page 9, I underline where well locations should be shown for lots 3A and 3B. And the page before that, page 8, the maintenance agreements for the shared access drive and the homeowner's documents. And design plans for the access drive, which is really the same thing. That should be part and parcel of what you will provide.
Correct, yep.
Is that satisfied, Mr. Frank?
I am.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Walsh, I heard you mention something about a consent agenda?
Yeah,
Or
well, I'm going to look to Damon to help me with the motion, because how do we amend the motion for approval?
I believe you could add the word consent agenda, so you could say something like, well, the way it reads now, move to table review of the 79-day road subdivision amendment to a future planning board meeting consent agenda. Would, I believe, meet that requirement.
Yeah, I think it's, you just say move the item to a future consent agenda pending final, the applicant addressing final comments and submission to planning staff.
Yeah.
All right. So, Mr. Chairman, let's see, move to future consent agenda for approval of 79-day road subdivision located on map 23 lot 7 in urban residential expansion zoning districts based on findings and facts and conditions of approval as written by the town planner and amended by the planning board.
does that work?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walsh. Is there a second? Thank you.
Mr. Frank?
Mr. Frank, thank you. Everyone understand what's happening? The only thing Andy's promised us is to make sure we get a letter of financial commitment. Otherwise, we'll see him again.
The August 3rd, but if
Quick,
not then,
as quickly as he can
next
get
available
AutoCAD
meeting.
turned on.
Yes.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, I have this someplace here. Oh, I have it. I'm sorry, I have it right here. I turned the page over. Yes, other business. We have a review of recommended changes of the planning board rules. Would someone from planning like to
Yes,
kick it
Mr.
off?
Chair. So last month, the planning board had a workshop to review the rules document. It had last been amended November 6, 2023. So based on the discussion from the board and requests for changes, staff have gone through and made amendments, which are shown in green in the document provided. I believe this meets all of the changes that have been requested. Happy to make any additional changes and answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Agarloff. In particular, what I mentioned when we kicked off this meeting, on page 7, item D, which is part of section 8, correct me if I'm wrong, Section 8, item D is public hearings, and those will be posted in the back now for individuals when they come in and review, and it discusses the process of the public hearing. And it should be noted, and someone criticized me recently, but item I, in that, it says the chair may limit time allotted for a testimony in the following way. So although it says 5, 20, and 10, I believe that can be amended based on how many people are actually in line. And that's my experience, having served on other groups. So I don't mind leaving it in 5, but I think it can be amended by the chair depending on the number of people in line.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Typically, if there's 20 people in line, we want to keep it like 3 minutes.
3 minutes might be more standard for a very busy meeting.
Yeah. So I don't think we need to do anything there, but it's posted that 5 minutes is perhaps the most for individuals. Ladies and gentlemen, any questions, concerns, anything stick out at you that we did or did not agree to or vote on, or? Mr. Frank.
All right, because I was out of town the first go-round on this, I think I got caught up with what you guys did when I was away. So, a couple of things, well, more than a couple. Get rid of the Roman numerals. What? All right, the page numbers are good. That was the first thing I noticed, because the original copy I had didn't have page numbers on them. Okay. Then on page 3, letter C, the workshop, the word informal kind of puzzles me a little bit. Are workshops really part of our formal? I mean, we record them and they're televised and all that. So I'm wondering if we really need to use that word informal.
Workshop meetings?
Because they're just workshop meetings.
If I can chime in, workshops, you're not allowed to vote. So only for that reason, I would suggest that it's informal as opposed to formally being allowed to vote, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if there's another adjective or something you want to throw in there.
I never considered that would be the qualifier, but.
I stand corrected, but I'm happy to change the word, but that's.
No, if that's the way it's understood, then it needs to be there. Okay?
I think that's one aspect of it, but and a lot of times, if you're having a workshop, say it's with a development, it's meant to be more of a back and forth, more informal conversation than the board of a strict peer review. So it's meant to be more of a discussion than a formal process sometimes. So I think workshops can take a lot of different avenues, but really informal is really how the discussion can flow between an applicant and the board, or the board itself can be more informal. So I think like we had a workshop tonight that was more informal, where it was more of a conversation between members. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
I'm sold. Thank you. Okay, moving along. On D, the site walk, the second sentence where it says public notice. Now, I made a note to myself. Now, do we need to say that we do direct notice, like mail to abutters, as part of our rules?
We do provide that for sidewalks.
No, but it's not written here.
Yeah, it would be my recommendation, if that's something you're looking at, have ironclad, you put in the subdivision requirements, not this notion isn't really binding to staff as a requirement to do submissions of public notice. So if you want, we already do that policy, but if you wanted to make sure that staff always did it, you would do a ordinance amendment under subdivision to say.
Okay. All right, let's see. What else did I have? Page 4. Oh, okay, yeah, the quorum and voting requirements. The last sentence there, smaller number of members may be appointed. I'm wondering if that thing, that thought or word should be relocated to section 4, which is all about committees, because it's mentioning an ad hoc committee. And yeah, that was it.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, so move section, or the last sentence under G.
The last paragraph in G
Yep.
speaks about committees, so I'm wondering if that's a better home for it.
Yep. Move to section 4, committees.
Right, perhaps item 2 and then,
Yeah, section 4, yeah, that's Arabic numeral 4. All right, that's all I had. Thank you all.
Captured all of that. Is the rest of the board in agreement with those?
Yeah.
Frank. Does everyone understand those?
Logical.
Just a couple of edits?
Including the removing Roman numerals? That,
I have no preference. If you go down to MIT in Cambridge, you look up, it says Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and it's got MCXX, MCDD, and you got to think for a minute. You got to remember subtracting 1,000, 900, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's the only place I see
Being
it.
pretentious, just like the stupid bowl, Super Bowl.
Okay, folks, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to adjourn.
How are we going to vote on the rules?
Oh, not the rules. I want to adjourn. Forget the rules. I told you I was going to be off tonight.
All the work Mr. Frank just did, and you're just ignoring him.
She just hit the remote starter on her car already.
So your motion was to approve the rules as amended by Mr. Frank?
Yes, I
Is
will
that
make a
right?
motion to approve the rules as amended by the board, by Mr. Frank.
Sure. Mostly Mr. Frank, yes. Anyone else? Is there a second? Mr. Christopherly, thank you. I don't want you to feel that you're left out. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you.
One more item, just
Wait,
quick.
motion to adjourn over here.
Yeah, I understand. I just want to get this out to the public because apparently a lot of the applicants who were on tonight's agenda got what they assumed was an email, and it looked like it was from me. It wasn't. It was a phishing scam that was very detailed and had all their proposal information, and it sent it to them that they needed to submit additional funds to the town to be on the agenda through a wire transfer. The town of Gorham will never identify a wire transfer for payment of fees. It looked like it came from me. It was very detailed about what they were proposing on the planning board tonight. So just be aware that those kind of scams are out there, and so they may come up every now and then. A couple of people identified that to us. We have sent notice to people, but we're assuming it's an AI program that takes all the agenda information that we put out and then synthesizes it and then they push it out. So that if you don't get contact from the town of Gorham to come to the office or mail a check to the town of Gorham, then it's not from us. So
So should I
Well,
cancel the
that-
transfer?
exactly.
So where are you going on vacation soon?
Yeah.
So have other communities been hit by this?
We assume so. We haven't done any research yet. So we talked to the IT director. He assumes that they're going around to anybody that puts that information regarding what's on the agenda out. And so my guess is we're not the only one.
Yeah, we'll be reaching out to other planners in other communities.
I hope you post on our website that it was a scam and be aware of it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do some notice on Facebook, and we'll put it under news and announcements for sure, just to let everyone aware.
Get that in the
of it.
Gorham Times.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Now you can adjourn. Thank you.
Now I would like to make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Ms. Nichols. Is there a second? Mr. Crisafulli, thank you. All those in favor? Thank you to Mr. Dyke. Thank you to Planning Department. Thank you to Mr. Norton for standing around and working with us. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.